Another thing that I really enjoy is people watching. I really love going to big, crowded areas where there's lots of people and just watching them, you know. And it always fascinates me to think that we are 97, 98, something like that, percent the same, you know. Our genes and DNA are, you know, for the majority the same, and it's that 2.5, 3% difference which creates all the diversity and all the genetic diversity that we see in everyone. And I just find it fascinating to just look at people and just watch people as they go about their own, you know, day-to-day tasks in their own little worlds, and seeing how everyone reacts differently and thinks differently and looks different. I always find that a very fascinating thing to do, especially shopping today. It really got me thinking about what Sartre talks about when he talks about the relationship between the self and the other. And he basically states in Being a Nothingness that there's always a conflict between the self and other people, other subjects. And this causes us, when we are in public spaces, to objectify ourselves. The way that we act when we are by ourselves in our rooms or in our houses is very different to how we would react and feel when we walked into a bar or a shopping centre or any other big closed public space. And for Sartre, this is caused because we are all subjects. As human beings, we are conscious, self-aware, self-conscious beings. And so when we are, in our rooms by ourselves, not doing much, there isn't any other any other subjects there, any other people there, any other consciousnesses there to objectify us, to look at us, and to be aware of us. And so this is why whenever we are in a space or a place where there are lots of other people, we immediately get that conflict, and that conflict is something that's very difficult to overcome or to get rid of. It just got me thinking about this, and I could see so much about how people do, objectify themselves and take on certain roles when they are in public spaces. Standing in the queue, for example, the checkout queue, there's about 10, 12 people in my queue, and I sort of just turned around and looked at them, just casually, and they were all sort of standing completely still, looking down or to the side, not really sort of engaging in what was happening, not really engaging in the moment. They just seemed to be lost, and it was very evident that they were objectifying themselves. They were taking on this sort of role of a shopper, where they don't really think or do much. I suppose you could say that when you're standing in a queue at a supermarket, there isn't that much things that you can do, but you could just tell when you look at them that they just don't. It's very obvious that they are trying to act normal. They are trying to look normal. And this is especially in a public area, with lots of people. It's a form of a survival tactic. Hundreds, thousands years ago, it would have been very bad to appear weird and out of the ordinary. And so, as a survival tactic, that is why we have evolved this this sort of conflict that we have between ourselves and other people and others. And this is why we always take on certain roles, and we always try to act what we believe to be, or what is considered to be normal in public situations. And, and Sartre actually makes a good example of this, and he talks about waiters in restaurants and pubs. He says that when a waiter is doing his job, waiting on, he takes on that role of a waiter. He takes on a new identity. He ceases to be a human being. He ceases to be a free-thinking subject, and he takes on the role of waiter. And I mean, again, you know, if that's your job, you can't really change that because that's what you have to do. But it just shows how, especially in social situations, we have a tendency to objectify ourselves. You know, as soon as we are aware that there could be other subjects and other people watching us, that is when we immediately start to, you know, conform and start to, as Sartre says, objectify ourselves through the look of the other, and it causes us to cease being human. And so the question that I've been thinking about is, how can we keep our sense of freedom and keep our sense of individuality in social environments, in public settings, when this inner conflict takes over? And the only way that we could do this is by completely separating the distinction between ourselves and other people, between the subject, or us as a subject, and other people as objects. And so I think the only way we could do this realistically is through some form of, you know, overcoming ourselves, overcoming our egos, which is a very difficult thing to do. Not necessarily transcend our ego, but overcome it and learn to see other people as ourselves. I think that's the best mind tactic, or tactic that we could use to overcome this. You know, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, about how we can maintain our individuality and our sense of self in a world full of selves, full of other people, full of egos. How can we retain our ego in a way which doesn't make us feel awkward or anxious, or doesn't force us to conform to any particular social normative?